Welcome to another edition of the Wonderbury Podcast.
I'm Brian,
I'm Dave.
and you can find us online at wonderbury.com.
You can find me online at Open Darkwing.
Yeah, you can find me anywhere the internet can be found. It's Brian Keesbury.
Everywhere.
Yeah. I'm pretty much everywhere.
No, I'm getting there again.
Yeah.
I'm getting there again.
I don't do anything anywhere, but I'm everywhere.
I exist.
I exist. Well, one of the things is I'm the only person in the history of ever to have the name Brian Keesbury, so
that's
I take
helpful.
it personal, so I sign up for things. I'm just like, Brian Keesbury. I'm like, what's this new thing? Brian Keesbury, signing up. I'm the only Brian Keesbury.
Yeah.
If it's there, it's got to be me.
That was kind of the joy of doing using Open Darkwing, is that everything's just available. It's like, oh, this is good. I'll take this. I'll absolutely take this.
Yeah. I also need to apologize. My voice is a little husky today. If it keeps it up, I might, by the end of the day, might be like full Malamute.
Well, we'll just go as long as we can and then figure it out.
Yeah, I got water. I'm good. So how was your week?
Week was been okay so far. The hell have I done this week? Other than running the kids to where they need to go, dealing with health insurance stuff, because my life doesn't feel like it was falling apart altogether. It just has to, now I have to pay for it. It's the wonderful part about everything is that when shit happens and shit goes down, not only does it feel like a punch to the gut, but then you have to pay for it. And then it's a punch to the gut all over because the greedy bastards that run insurance companies don't like paying for things that they're contracted to pay with and that you pay them to pay.
I always compare insurance to gambling.
No, insurance is
you're
betting. I get what you're saying.
When you're paying, you're betting that you're going to get hurt, but they're betting that you're not going to get hurt, or that if you do get hurt, it's not in their rules.
Yeah, but it's more like gambling with the mob. You never know if they're actually going to pay out because it's a goddamn racket. And I was telling the wife about this earlier today, and I was like, because she was helping me out through the stuff, and I could tell she was getting a little frustrated because I'm a fucking 40-year-old man, and I'm still struggling with basic insurance shit. And I had to explain to her that outside of her insurance, since we've been together and she's been the policy holder, my entire adult life, I was under socialized medicine in the military.
Yeah.
I didn't have to deal with this because there was nothing. I mean, even when Thing 1 was born, he was born in a non-military hospital, but I got sent the bill. I walked into our admin office and handed them the bill, and it was completely taken care of. In my adult life, I've never had to deal with insurance because it was always it was provided for me for so long. And then when I got out, in between getting out and moving in with her, I didn't have insurance. So, I just ignored anything that said doctor on it and just didn't do anything, neglect, you can neglect your health for a few years. Why not?
Yeah.
So it was one of those things where it's like, I've never been in a position in my adult life to actually have to deal with insurance. And that's a really fucking weird position to be in.
Yeah. Been trying to deal with that a bit too.
It's a goddamn it's a fucking racket.
Yeah.
It's like, here, pay this. Well, no, we can't pay that. Why not? Well, because it doesn't fit here. Well, yes, it does. It's right here. Oh, yeah, I guess you're right. Well, I'm sorry. And then you get back, you didn't pay this fast enough so that, and it's not like you can pay and get reimbursed because God knows they'll never reimburse that.
That's what my dad did.
Oh, that's even more of a nightmare. I took thing 2 to ReadyMed, right? I got the address of the ReadyMed from our insurance website. We get there, and guess what got denied?
Yeah.
Our
insurance.
visit from the insurance on site. They just said no. So I'm like, okay, it's 6 p.m. I'll call. No, because I did not call before 4 o'clock. There was nobody in the office. So they're denying insurance on a listed place. And, it's not the poor administrator's fault, the clinic. I mean, because they were like, is this in your, your network or whatever? And I was like, I pulled up the website directly on my phone. I flipped it around. They went, well, this is stupid. Like, they were pissed off for me. So I ended up paying out of pocket. And then dealing with the insurance, they're like, well, you shouldn't have paid this. I was like, I had to pay it because you guys denied it. Well, that was a mistake in our system. Okay, so why didn't you call? I was like, I did call, and you told me I had to call back on Monday because it was Friday night and you guys weren't going to be open until Monday. Meanwhile, my kid's fucking sick. What do you want me to do?
God.
That took 4 months to resolve.
Jesus.
Thankfully, it was only $200. Do you imagine what it would have been if it had been 10,000?
Yeah.
And that's not outside of the realm of anything.
That's
a 3-block ambulance ride.
Yeah. That's kind of how my dad did with when my mom had breast cancer. Like he put everything on his Sears card, but he knew, like he knew that the insurance would pay him back. So he put it on the Sears card because he had like, I think like 6 months or whatever of no interest on it.
Yeah.
So he could put it on the Sears card. That way the medical bill was paid. Then he would get Sears points.
No, that was especially if he doesn't have to pay insurance on it for 6 months. He knew that he was going to get that money back in 6 months. That's fucking smart.
Yeah.
That's what people.
Yeah, they would pay him back, and then he would get free Sears points. So then he like stocked his whole wood shop with tools.
That's what a lot of people
getting cancer.
When you go get a credit card and you're going to use a credit card, use it the same way. Find one that has really good rewards and use it kind of the same way you would use your debit card, as long as you pay it off each month. Even if it does have interest accrues at the end of the month. So as long as it's paid off before the end of the month, all you're doing is just fueling points. You just have to be really, really, attentive to making sure you pay it off so you don't have to pay the insurance payments.
Or if you already have automatic bills coming out of an account, set up your, like get a credit card, set up your bills to come out automatically on the credit card, and then set up your credit card to automatically pay out of your account. Because there's no difference other than you're just building an extra layer of credit.
Yep. No, there's a lot of smart things. I wish I would have done a lot of that when I was younger. I'm still rebuilding credit from decades of absolutely letting it go to shit.
Yeah. Mine was pretty good until I went to buy a house and I checked multiple loan providers.
Oh yeah, you get those hard inquiries.
Yeah, and I didn't at the time. I didn't even know there was a difference. Like I knew it would hit a little bit. I didn't know it was going to hit a lot. So I went from like 820 down to like 690.
Oh, you think
in
insurance?
2 weeks.
You think insurance is a racket? Fucking credit reporting agencies is the biggest goddamn racket out there.
Yeah, that's yeah. That didn't even exist until like what, 20, 30 years ago or something?
I don't care about when it existed. The problem that I have with it is that when was it Equifax had that massive data breach?
Yeah.
Like, okay, normally if a company has a data breach, I can choose to pull all of my stuff from them and never use them again, i.e. LastPass.
Yeah.
And just say, you know what? I don't trust you guys with my information anymore, so I'm going somewhere else, which if you're looking for a password manager, I ended up going with a self-hosted Bitwarden because one, open source, two, self-hosted. So they'd have to hack my individual server because it's not connected to the main Bitwarden thing. But I digress. You cannot opt out of credit reporting agencies, and they have everything that you need to steal someone's identity. Everything. And there is no opt out. There is no way around it. It is a private company that makes money selling your information that you cannot back out of. Like we give Google shit, we give Facebook shit, we give TikTok shit, we give all these social media companies shit for misuse and not being open and transparent of where your data is being sold to. Try figuring out where the place that you cannot back out of is selling your information, and you cannot find that out. That's a goddamn racket.
Yep.
And if their security laxes and there's a major breach, oh well, you'll get protection if you can prove you were affected. Those guys can go pound sand.
Well, and even when they had that, it was when they had that breach, the options were like get a payout of like $12 or something, or get like a year free of Equifax
Credit monitoring.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, you guys don't have the security to be able to handle this, and you're still getting be able to keep everything.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. Yeah, I can go off for a long time on being ticked off about bullshit places like that. Because it is. I mean, it's complete bullshit, and it's frustrating.
Yep.
But hey, that's life, right?
Yeah. Hey, speaking of insurance, does Lightning McQueen have health insurance or car insurance?
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, if we're going to go down that route, then Mater, the tow Mater, is a psychopathic serial killer. Because his entire job is to pull in and stack the dead bodies of everyone in that town in his backyard.
He's like a coroner. And a surgeon. He's like an old-timey coroner surgeon combo.
That just stacks dead bodies in his backyard.
Yeah. It's like, God, don't got a shovel. Just pile them up out here. Let the earth take them back.
If my coroner if my coroner shows up and sounds like him, run. Oh man.
I don't know. If my coroner shows up and he sounds like Mater, that's fine, because I imagine he'll just throw me out back as feed for his livestock, which is probably better than rotting away in the ground.
I'm opting for the whole burn the body. Yeah. Gut every usable piece you can out of me. Take the rest of whatever is remaining, stick it to medical students so they can experiment and learn all their stuff so that my body can be used so they can learn how to save lives. And whatever's left over after all that, burn it.
Yeah.
Put it in a box and give it to my loved ones.
I don't plan on leaving much usable pieces.
Oh, there's not going to be very many usable pieces, but
it's the same thing I do with my vehicles though too.
I will have plenty of surface area to be able to do things for sutures, repairing broken things, surgery stuff. There'd be a ton of surface area to go around with the way that I'm going right now. Like twice the average man. Not nearly as tall.
I had to go in to the doctor for my yearly checkup.
Yeah.
And they did blood work and all that stuff, and I got my what did I get? Hepatitis A vaccine, I think.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't find a record of that. Of course, we couldn't find records from my childhood. So they gave me that vaccine, and they're like, okay, fill out this paperwork. So I'm like filling out all these things. I'm like, no, don't have that. And I hit there's a question and it said do you have seizures or a brain problem? And I stopped and I was like, hey, Heather was the nurse. I was like, hey, is my cluster headache's a brain problem? She goes, oh yeah.
No hesitation. Oh yeah.
Oh. She's like, yeah, just mark it down so we know. I'm like, it's like,
well, okay.
Okay. Fuck.
Yeah.
It's like, well, at least I'll burn that out.
It's like I got good news and bad news.
Yeah. That kind of hit me in the soul a bit. And she's like, yeah. Oh, crap.
Yeah. Good news is we found out what's wrong with you. Bad news is your name's going to be attached to it.
Yeah.
How would you like to be infamous?
Yeah.
Oh, dear Lord.
Yep. Fun stuff.
Always fun stuff.
Oh, so yeah. Anyways, they're gonna sign me up for a sleep study too. So
I've been through one of those before.
Yeah, how'd you do?
Be prepared for the worst night of sleep in your life.
Yeah.
Are you a side sleeper or a back sleeper?
I roll around and toss and turn and kick and moan, grunt.
Yeah,
so,
you're going to be in for a long night then.
Yeah.
Because they pretty much want you to sleep still and on your back because they have everything fucking hooked up to you.
Yeah.
I'm a side sleeper. I have a hard time sleeping on my back. And so when I went through mine, because I was having some really bad sleep apnea for a while. And it was to the point where I was like stopping breathing at night. And then right about the time that my brain was like, all right, you're about to die now. We should go ahead and shock the system back in. That's when I would take a breath. So, yeah, I slept with a CPAP machine for years.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Just because I kept, my breathing would just stop.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's probably a bad thing.
Yeah.
Dude, that thing is the most uncomfortable, weird ass thing ever in the world. Wear a freaking fighter pilot mask that shoves these little two things in your nose so that you can shoot air into your nose. So you're constantly getting oxygen in.
Yeah,
and then you have to fill up the little humidifier because otherwise it'll dry you out. And then that thing gets all filled up with like condensated air and then it starts dripping into your nose. Oh, it's just a wonderful time.
Ugh.
CPAP machines are terrible.
It seems like
Sorry,
the people
I'm a
that
little
have them,
crotchety today. Today's
Yeah.
Grumpy Dave.
Grumpy
We
Dave.
got Grumpy Dave on the podcast today. In a whole F the world mood.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll get over it, but for now, I'm still in an F the world mood.
Yeah. I've been kind of grumpy the last few days, mostly because of that doctor's appointment.
I get this way when the weather starts doing the whole, hey, today we're below freezing. Oh, hey, today we're 60. Oh, hey, today we're 20.
Yeah. I've been
Ends up
visiting
hurting my back and my knees, and then that just makes me just grumpy.
Been visiting my therapist a lot last few days. Do you know
Oh, yeah?
her? Dr. McGillicuddy.
McGillicuddy.
My other doctor is Dr. Pepper. That's the state of American healthcare.
Right? No, the only reason why I was bitching about insurance is I got to call a caseworker after we're done with this and try to figure shit out.
Yeah.
And if there's one thing I don't like doing is spending hours on the phone talking to somebody that I really don't want to be talking to.
Yeah. I do love it when the doctor tells them what they want you to have, and then they call and they're like, no, what you should actually have is this drug instead.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, wait, no.
Because that's just, yeah, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the way that works.
Yeah, because I should be taking Amavig for my cluster headaches, which would be awesome because that's just a shot once a month. And instead of doing that, I take 2 pills in the morning and 1 at night. Every day. With other pills that I take if I have a headache anyways.
Fun.
Yeah.
That just sounds so enjoyable.
Yep. All to keep my brain from melting down.
Yeah, well, you know, the things we do for our brains, I guess.
It's like somebody didn't put thermal paste on, right?
Right?
When they put mine in. So if it gets to working too hard, it overheats. And I get a headache. Good stuff.
Yeah. Oh, boy. Yeah, it's just been kind of a blah week, really.
Yeah. Can confirm.
Could be worse, could be better. But overall, it's not terrible. I got a lot of enjoyment over watching Congress implode on its first nights. That was fun.
Yeah.
I don't care which side you're cheering for. Watching a group that screamed and cried about how they could govern so much better couldn't get the first most basic, easiest vote done, and it took them 3 days to pick a leader. That was fun.
I didn't know that the House of Representatives was full of audio files. Took them 15 times to pick out a speaker.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny because the group that was holding it all up was screaming about the swamp and horrible backroom deals to stay in power and to gain power. And they still don't want to release what the concessions that were made that they were of their demands because of the backroom deals that they made for powerful spots and other handouts.
Yeah.
And then they finally all get together and they're like, okay, what should we do for Bill 1? We all ran on fiscal responsibility, lowering the deficit, and rah law enforcement. Let's go ahead and defund the police, aka 80,000 federal police agents. But those agents are only there to go after rich people to ensure that they follow laws. That would add $144 billion of deficit to the United States. That's their first act. So they can't govern, and they violate their own rules immediately. It was the most perfect chasm of what the fuck is going on here that I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And I loved every second about it.
Yeah.
It was phenomenal.
And they're phrasing it like they're going to immediately sack like 87,000 IRS agents when it isn't even agents. Like the funding that they overturned wasn't for current agents. It was for future replacement of agents.
Yeah.
And training for like their IT department and customer service. Because
they're beholden to rich people that try to get away with all sorts of bullshit that only the IRS can catch them on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, it was a great first look. You know, they talk about first impressions. This was the ultimate first impression. So the next 2 years is going to be a lot of fun to sit back and popcorn it out.
Mm-hmm.
Although I have to say, there was one congresswoman, Democrat from California, Katie Porter, turned into my personal hero because by day 3, she was photographed sitting in her seat while everything was going on, reading a book titled The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
Yeah.
And I have to say, that is the quintessential mwah to the whole thing. Because that was brilliant. That was absolutely fucking brilliant.
Yeah. Have you been watching any of the bad lip readings from any of that?
No, I have not started down that rabbit hole yet.
Dude,
I need to.
BLR official on TikTok. This shit is so good. It's hilarious.
Oh, that is hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah. What a clusterfuck.
Oh, it's brilliant. And listening to them all be pissed off about it, then trying to spin it like it's a good thing as things go on their own. It's like, this is democracy in action. Like, no. This is you guys getting in bed with the fascist fuck wing of your party, telling them to go fuck themselves, and then begging them to come to the table because suddenly you need them when you couldn't win a big enough red wave to make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Good luck trying to keep that entire shit show together once actual, life-changing bills hit the floor, like raising the debt ceiling in 6 months.
Yeah.
Or 8 months or whenever that is, August. 8 months. Good luck with that. If you think that you're going to keep 6 or 7 moderate Republicans from bailing out and saying, well, we can't default, good luck.
Yeah.
Not to mention, what's going to get really fun is the first time that the speaker pisses someone off, any single member can now call for a vote of no confidence against the Speaker of the House. It no longer has to be a large collective. He kept whittling it down to one person, which means at any given time, this whole thing could get restarted again, to where they have to sit there and run through multiple votes for a speaker again. In the middle of legislative sessions, this could happen again. And popcorn coming out if that ends up happening, because that is amazing.
Yeah. I think
This really fed into my just let the world burn mantra that I have. And I got no love for Democrats. Democrats have been two-faced about a lot of stuff too, but
Yeah. I'm
I
saying
will
if
say
I
this
were,
about
I'd
them right
probably
now.
abuse that a little bit right away.
They got their shit together right now.
Yeah.
If you walked in there and finding out, all right, which party is unified, ready to lead and govern, that question was answered real quick.
Yeah. And over again for 15 times.
And like I yeah. Well, you know what it was last time this happened, right? Civil War.
Yeah.
When it went this long. And right before that, when last time it went a whole bunch, was in the 30s. Guess what happened right after that?
Yeah.
Or in the 20s rather. So yeah, we're in for a wild ride. I'm just gonna strap on and have fun with it. Although one thing that, staying on the political front without getting into the actual politics of things, something happened with my kids this last week with TikTok, actually, where there were some people freaking out over bills on TikTok. And so, I grew up in the world of politics. So how I know how things work is probably more than the average person, even of my age. And I'm trying to figure out now how to get better education for civic stuff. Because everyone's heard, bills get introduced into a Congress or a House of Representatives for state. Those bills pass and they go to the Senate. Those bills pass, they go to the governor or the president to get signed into law.
Mm-hmm.
But what that ignores is all the nuances that happens from when legislation is drafted to where it goes to get put toward a vote for the entire assembly. No one talks about the committees.
Yeah.
And so when a bill is introduced, it gets assigned into a committee to check viability, compatibility, all sorts of things. Like there's a whole list gambit. And the problem is that because no one is teaching the new generation about this, they see a bill and the text of a bill that gets proposed out and it becomes DEFCON 5 because, or DEFCON whatever, I don't remember which direction it goes, but it goes, they get absolutely freaked out about it because some of this stuff is absolutely terribly shitty. But what they don't realize is that it's got to go through all these other steps. So I'm trying to figure out, how do I teach my kids this stuff in a way that they can then share it with their friends so that we can cut off some of this, get better civics information, because better education in this will become better engagement. And that way we can kind of start shaping out these kids' minds so that when they do want to go change something, they know exactly what they need to do. And that we don't turn into a fear-mongering propaganda wing like we rail against other groups doing. Because that's and whether it's intentional or not, that's what's kind of happening.
Yeah, like how the big freak out about gas stoves.
I mean, I know the scientific community's been dealing with that for a while, because someone pulls up some raw text of a study that's not been peer reviewed. They say, well, a scientific study was done. It's like, well, no, because it's not been peer reviewed. It's not been accepted as, but they have all of the data there. And they're like, well, it's all right here. It's all showing this. And it's not the whole story. We're getting half stories.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to fix it.
I don't know. The thing I read about with the gas stoves was most people that have gas stoves don't have their range hood like venting to the outside. So it just self vents to the inside, like
that's not good.
yeah, so you're not venting out the burnt gas. Like it's just floating around in your house. So you're, breathing carbon monoxide and shit while you're cooking. Whereas, like if you could look at like restaurant style oven setups where they have gas that vents, like it's massive range hoods over the stoves and it vents outside. Like there's big blower fans and it sucks air to the outside world. Whereas most home stoves don't have that. They just have like the bottom of the microwave thing where it doesn't vent anywhere but into your face. And so and I think from the little bit of reading I did, I glanced at it and was like, well, I don't want a gas stove anyways, so I only read a little bit. But what it looked like they were like, well, we might as well just fucking ban gas stoves as a whole. Whereas what they should have done was tied them together so that if there's a new build, and it wasn't like it's going to be a ban, like you can't, like they're going to come and take stoves out of your house and force you to replace them.
Well, it
was a ban on new builds.
Well, and it wasn't even that. So here, I just found the report that the U.S. Customer Product Safety Commission, the CPSC, was talking about. So in December, they were considering health regulations for gas stoves for a lot of things that you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
And they said that there are multiple routes that we are looking at. New performance standards for range hoods to ensure they are filtering out emissions. As a requirement, that stove be sold with a duct hood that vents outside, or more drastically, a ban on their import and manufacture. So,
well, I think it was didn't the EPA say something this week?
No. So what ended up happening was that was the CSPC's, the commissioners. The EPA released a report on the emissions that they're talking about. So the emissions that are coming in that they used for filtering out more emissions was an EPA report.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So
a senator tweeted out that one option that's not on the table. So one option they weren't even considering, but was listed in the of all the options, and they said we're not considering some of these. One of the options was to force people to replace existing stoves. They even said in the report this is not on the table. Senator Joe Manchin freaked everybody out when he tweeted out, "I can tell you the last thing I would ever leave my house is the gas stove we cook on," which just exploded everything because now a senator is getting his nose into something, absolutely ripping over and ignoring everything. All this happened because someone ignored the actual wording of a report, which is
someone who's in power and would be voting on that.
Yeah. And so then because of this,
so what makes that worse is like we have the ability to think cognitively and look at it and read it. And I guess in my brain, I read it, then my brain went backwards because I thought the EPA said something about it when the safety commission did the thing. But
so the EPA, what they ruled on with it was the particles and the emissions. So they gave the raw data, the numbers.
Yeah.
So then an hour ago, because I'm looking at this right now from The Guardian, Joe Biden has ruled out any ban of gas stoves in the U.S. So all of that whole Republicans, Joe Biden wants to take away your gas stoves bullshit that we've heard for the last 3 weeks. He came out and was like, no.
Yeah. Which is funny because they could
so the
still...
peer-reviewed study from last week found that 1 in 8 cases of childhood asthma in the U.S. can be linked directly to gas stoves.
Yeah. And
because
probably
of the
just
emissions.
Improper venting.
Yep.
So
a link between pollution spewing from gas stoves and health problems have been well established by scientists, with the EPA warning of the dangers as far back as 1986. So this is stuff that they've known and they've stood by for decades. I mean, 86, that's what, 37 years ago?
Yeah, thereabouts.
But yeah, he goes, even the CPSC said, to be clear, I'm not looking to ban gas stoves, and the CPSC has no proceedings to do so. All we're trying to do, this is part of our safety mission, is learning about the hazards when working to make products safer. Shipping them out with regulations attached to it that way for venting, that's not just, that's some common sense bullshit.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what regulations are for, is to make sure the stuff that you buy isn't going to kill you. That's the point of regulations.
Yeah. That's
Republicans don't have a problem with that when Teslas were catching on fire. They were pointing out all sorts of regulations that should be enacted.
Yeah.
And they weren't even catching on fire at a faster rate than other cars were. It just sounded scary. Well, that because lithium batteries, fucking the way that they burn.
Yeah, those are cool.
Yeah.
12-year-old boy inside me is like, yeah, badass.
Well, it's like, so when I was in the Navy, I was a flight deck firefighter. And one thing we learned being a firefighter is that when the composite epoxy on aircraft fuselages, because they're not just metal anymore, they're a composite because it's much lighter, and so therefore it becomes more efficient, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that stuff can light on fire. The epoxy can light on fire, catch fire at a much lower temperature than melting metal would be able to. And then it burns hotter and hotter and hotter and because some of these components, they're self-oxidizing. And so it turns into like a magnesium fire when one of these fucking things catches on fire, which is why if you can't smother it, which is one of the reasons why aircraft firefighting, we use a firefighting foam that is intended to smother the fire to take, to try to stop it that way. But if that doesn't work because it starts self-oxidizing, and that way smothering doesn't get to do anything, we had a special apparatus for the front of our giant forklift that we had that we could knock the siding, like the little lip siding, off on the side of the ship, and we would push a flaming wreckage over the side of the boat if we couldn't stop the fire in X amount of time, because if we can't stop it by then, it turns into a magnesium fire. Which...
Fuck it. Dump it.
Yeah, right? So there's just... Those kind of fires are kind of scary.
Yeah.
Which is the explanation that I give to people when they're talking about the stupid Twin Towers thing back in the day. Of, well, jet fuel can't melt steel beams or whatever. And they're absolutely right. It can't. But what can is a magnesium fire from composites from, I don't know, a fuselage of a goddamn airplane that crashes into a tower. And once that lights, then that sure as hell burns hard enough to melt steel beams, because that's why we would push an airplane that's still on fire off the side of the boat, because once it starts burning that hot, it's going to start melting the aircraft carrier flight deck. And that's multiple inches thick of plate steel that can withstand things like, I don't know, an airplane crashing into it. And we would still even jettison off. I don't know. That was a long way to say that fires are fucking cool.
Yeah.
And extremely scary when it's other stuff other than just base material burning.
Yeah.
You start burning things like batteries, lithium, composite materials. That shit gets dangerous fast.
Yeah. And that I use a wood stove in my house, like to heat my house, because like furnaces have an efficiency, like there's a bottom to their efficiency, you know. So like my furnace is good down to like 20 degrees or whatever, but I once we're below freezing, I use my wood stove. Because I don't want to be like at the bottom efficiency of using my furnace, because it's a gas furnace and I don't want to be using that. So I burn my wood stove, which is it's more efficient. It puts out way more BTU like per exhaust emission than what the furnace does over time.
Yeah.
And it's more dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. So like the first year here, I spent a lot of time like reading and watching videos of like how to do this, what all do you got to do,
maintenance,
what are the
cleaning.
steps? Yeah, cleaning, like sweeping the chimney. You do that twice a year. You know, you get like halfway through the winter, you want to have it done. I use a moisture meter. I bought a moisture meter for testing my wood. And
nice.
So you just like stab the meter into the wood and it tells you like what the moisture percentage is. So you want to burn like under 20% moisture, because anything over that, you're going to be putting like extra, will create like creosote and stuff in your chimney, you know, as it condenses with the smoke. And then it just won't burn good. So you're not going to be burning efficiently either. But I like having studied that enough to make my stove work good and get the most out of it, like I've realized there are a shit ton of people that don't do that. And I see a lot of studies where it's like, oh, wood stoves are bad, they're polluting, but it's not the fault of the wood stove, it's the fault of the people using them probably improperly.
Yeah.
And because like even the EPA was like, they're giving rebates on new wood stove installs. So, and they're doing like all sorts of efficiency ratings with wood stoves, and there's a whole big section on the EPA's website about using a wood stove to heat your house in lieu of a furnace. So I'm like, I'm going off of what the EPA says, using their information.
Biomass
because if I
stoves
do it
and
right,
boilers tax credits.
yeah,
30% of the project cost with a maximum of $2,000 credited.
yeah.
And that's not just for wood stoves, but any biomass fuel. So agricultural crops, trees, wood waste, residues, including wood pellets, plants, grasses, fibers, other residue stuff, and must have a thermal efficiency rating of at least 75%.
Yeah.
Huh. I did not know this was a thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, and geothermal heat pumps are eligible for a separate tax credit and not counted against those. So if you could combine geothermal heat pumps with this and be able to double up on the tax credits because it's not counted against it. They're not counted against each other. Oh, that's kind of fucking cool.
Yeah.
How did I not know about this?
While you're at it, look up Blaze King Princess 32.
Oh no.
This was the stove that when I was reading about the EPA stuff, this was the stove. This was their highest rated stove. Like this is the best stove on the market for heating a house.
Princess PE32 by Blaze King.
Yeah.
Solid fuel catalytic stoves.
Solid fuel just means you're using like cut and split logs of wood rather than pellets or whatever.
$3,622.68.
Yeah. So 30% is of that. This being the EPA's top recommendation. What was the price on it? 3,600?
Yeah.
Yeah. 30% of that's well under the $2,000 cap. But that I think yeah. So yeah, I probably could have had that installed and gotten some tax credit on it.
Oh yeah.
Because it was, and I think the tax credit last year was like 40 or 45%, and then it dropped at the end of the year.
Still not a bad deal.
Yeah. And the exhaust output on it, I believe, was like 0.5 grams of ash per hour burn. The BTU over the burn time was like 500 and some thousand. And the 32 in the name stands for 32-hour burn time. Like you load it.
51,000 BTUs, cordwood max BTU.
Oh, 51,000?
Yep.
I
80%
think
efficient. 30 hours from burn time on low.
Yeah. My stove burns
constant
like
heat output
8 hours
on high
on low.
was 37,727 BTUs per hour for 10 hours. Constant heat output on low is 12,576 BTUs per hour for up to 30 hours. With a square feet heated of 1,200 to 2,500 square foot.
Yeah, I think that's where I ended up with that number, was total output over 30 hours was somewhere in the 500,000 range.
This isn't terrible, though, I mean, as far as those go. My problem with them, and like here, is that we keep things much colder at our house in the wintertime. Because both the wife and I, and the kids too, to a certain extent, we have a higher problem cooling down if we get too warm. And easier to kind of push up. So that was one of the things that we were talking about, because we talked about going to a wood stove at one point, but regulating temperature heat off of that is a little harder when you're trying to stay in, like, you know, I think I keep my furnace at 68 degrees in the sun in the wintertime.
Well, you wouldn't put it like in your living room like how mine is. Yours would probably have to go in your basement.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with mine, is having it like in the living room, like the great room area. There's so much radiant heat coming off of the box itself. That's what makes it so hot.
Yeah. My problem is with putting something. I don't like the idea of open flame in the basement, even if it is in a box like this. Because if something goes wrong, you're starting the flashpoint on something that's non-outside wall that you can't get to the root of from outside. And I know that's that way with anything electrical wise too, but the risk chances go up with anything with an open flame.
Doesn't your furnace gas?
Yes, but I can kill the open flame in a gas by shutting the gas off. You can't shut wood off from burning.
Yeah, you can. There's dampers on the front of the stove, and if you spin those closed, it'll shut off. Because you're cutting off the oxygen.
You are cutting off the oxygen. You are cutting off the oxygen. You are. And you are right about that.
Yep.
But the residual heat off of wood versus gas lasts a lot longer. I can cut off a gas, turn off the gas, and the moment the flame vanishes, I would be able to turn the gas back on and be fine. You drop those flutes, you have to wait until the temperature drops a certain amount because the moment you reintroduce oxygen, it'll reflash. That's one of the reasons why we used gas for fake fires when we were doing that stuff at the fire academy. So when we would do live fire drills, it was all gas because it was controlled for emergencies to be shut off. Like when I blew my knee out and I collapsed, I was in the middle of fire when that happened. And they were within 10 seconds able to shut off that, and it was cool enough for them to come in and send in the paramedics to come evaluate me.
Yeah.
I know it's not logical, and I know it's weird, and I know it's just me, and I'm not saying that no one else should do this. I'm not saying that at all. By all means, I think that wood stoves are absolutely amazing. I can't get out of my own head with them. Because I have a really uniquely fucked up experience with different types of fires.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that I think that it's a bad thing, it's a bad investment, or it's dangerous, because it is not at all.
Yeah.
I have a really weird, and everybody's got those things, those irrational fears of stuff.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is.
Yeah. They're not dangerous as long as you maintain them.
Yep.
And you know what you're doing. I think one of the big things that people need to do more is using the moisture meter, because that'll tell you if your wood is ready to burn or not. If your wood's too green, then it doesn't burn good, and that causes issues.
Moisture meters and just maintaining the vents and the flutes and keeping it clean and keeping the soot down so that doesn't burn. Because the moment you start burning that, and even clearing out old wood and charcoal, because once you start burning charcoal at the same time, then you're adding another layer of carcinogens.
Well,
or it's possible to.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you absolutely will, but depending on where you get your wood, you absolutely could be.
Yeah. Or you find all sorts of weird shit in the wood.
Yeah. Yeah, there's that too.
Yeah. I found stuff that must have been attached to a tree and then grown over, and then it got, burnt the wood, and then all of a sudden there's a piece of metal in the bottom of the stove in the ashes.
Yep.
I'm like, wonder what that was for. Yeah.
Well,
anyways,
if you're looking into it, I would say go for it.
Yeah. Do it. If you like underwear weather in the middle of winter.
Ignore my angry rant about fire.
Yeah.
Because I definitely have a skewed perspective that is not and should not be taken as emblematic of anything other than the way my mind works.
Yeah.
You should never, ever take what I just said and apply it out to being a subject matter expert on everything. Do your own research on it.
Yep.
And not from crackpots.
Yeah. I can tell you from my experience, when we had those days on Christmas where it was negative 10 degrees outside and negative 30 something with a wind chill, I had the wood stove going and I had like the Nest thermostat said I was like in between like 70 and 75 all day, each of those days. And I didn't use a drop of gas that whole week.
Oh,
So,
nice.
yeah. So I was hanging out in my underwear and everybody else was freezing to death. So if you like hanging out in your underwear in negative 30-degree weather, a wood stove might be for you.
All right, Brian. Well, another week in the books.
Yep.
We keep plodding through January.
Let's see what kind of excitement brings for next week.
Always. Thank you guys all for coming out and listening to us week in and week out. We really do appreciate it.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Makes it fun for us.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Gives us a reason.
Something like that. All right, guys. We'll catch you guys all next week.
Later.
Good night.